Now we move on to the next speaker. The presenter will be Dr. Ali Peter Michael Dedi.
Thank you very much. My name is Ali Peter Michael, and I conducted a study on the staff turnover national non-governmental organizations in South Sudan, covering the period 2011-2021. South Sudan attained independence on the 9th July 2011, after decades of war, making it the newest nation in the world. And due to the decades of war, most of the infrastructures were destroyed, and it is so far the least developed countries in the world. As a result, the government came up with a development strategic plan in order to develop the country, which attracted several donors immediately after independence. And there are over 650 NGOs in South Sudan, which are categorized into international non-governmental organizations and the national non-governmental organizations. They are playing a great role in the development and then humanitarian and addressing development and humanitarian needs in the country. And most of these international organizations deliver their services through national non-governmental organizations. And this one is not a surprise. It's due to the global commitments to localize humanitarian response. Having skillful and honest, dedicated employees, non-governmental organizations, the national governmental organizations for a longer period can help them achieve their goals and complete projects successfully in a specific time frame and desired quality. However, it has been noticed that there is high turnover rates in the national non-governmental organizations in South Sudan, and it has become a big concern, as stated by Tana et al. So most of the international organizations struggle, to work with the national non-governmental organizations due to the high turnover of staff, which is being experienced at the national non-governmental organizations. And it is a huge problem for the national non-governmental organizations that are struggling to get funding, because they end up spending a lot of resources in training and investing in its employees, and then losing such talented and expert workforce will result in not having competent staff to run the organization at various levels. So in South Sudan, it is commonly known to the international organizations that national non-governmental organizations do not have a capacity. And also it will require new investments in human resource to close the competence gaps, which comes with additional costs. Unfortunately, no study has been conducted in this area, because if the national non-governmental organizations are aware of the common causes of employee turnover, they will certainly be able to address them in order to operate effectively and efficiently. Therefore, given the need to investigate the factors behind employee resignations, the national non-governmental organizations in South Sudan, and that is the need for this particular study. Methodology. It is a descriptive research design, and it is because of its flexibility and appropriateness based on the type, the data required to collect. And the approach was multiple case study involving 30 non-governmental organizations. And the study site was Juba City, the Republic of South Sudan. The research instruments used was structured questionnaires and administered to 30 human resource managers of 30 national non-governmental organizations. And in the questionnaires, we try to address 4 areas, because the first objective was to investigate whether salaries contributed to staff turnover in the national non-governmental organizations. And the second objective was investigating whether leadership styles contributed to turnover in the national non-governmental organizations. The fourth one was whether career advancement also contributed to turnover in national non-governmental organizations. And then the conditions of work, whether it is also contributed to turnover in national non-governmental organizations. So all these were put in the research instrument, the structured questionnaire, results and discussion. From the 30 participants that participated, 70% of them were female, while 30% were male. And then majority of those that participated were aged 26 to 30 years, meaning that they were mature enough to contribute objectively. 47% of the participants worked for 1 to 3 years, those organizations. On educational levels, majority of the respondents had bachelor's degree, and that is 67% of them, meaning that they were able to articulate issues and reason well. The first results was whether on salary adequacy and effect. 80% of the participants said the salaries offered at the national non-governmental organizations are inadequate. 10% are not sure. And asking whether the inadequate salaries led to staff turnover, 90% of them say inadequate salaries led to staff turnover. And of course, other factors were investigated, and most of them say their partners would not allow them good, no reasonable salaries. They were controlled by the international organizations, which always tell them to budget very low salaries. And due to these low salaries, at least most of the staff end up resigning. I also investigated whether or not leadership style resulted in staff turnover. And according to them, most common leadership style in non-governmental organizations is autocratic leadership style. And then 33% say democratic leadership style is common, while 20% say leadership style is common. And then asking whether or not autocratic leadership led to staff turnover, 70% of them agreed that leadership style led to staff turnover in national non-governmental organizations. Investigating further for the type that led to the staff turnover, they said autocratic leadership style led to staff turnover. I also investigated whether or not career development has contributed to staff turnover in national non-governmental organizations. I started by asking them on the existing career development opportunities that are prevalent in the national non-governmental organizations. And 54% of them are not sure of any existence of career development opportunities in their organizations. And 23% said there is training going on in the national non-governmental. However, probing further, they say the training is only limited because it's only happening when it's a requirement from the partner, and they're only being trained on technical areas whenever there is a new project that comes up. And then 10% said there is promotion, job promotion that happens in their organizations, while the majority say promotion is something very rare in the national non-governmental organization. asking why it's happening, they were quick to mention, some of them mentioned, and I quote, that it is because they don't have the resources. When they promote someone, they need an increase in salary which they do not have. Asking whether this lack of career, limited career have contributed to staff turnover, 75% of the respondents said it has led to staff turnover. Some of them say they rather go and join organizations that have career development opportunities. In this case, they are meaning the international organizations. I believe there are a lot of career development opportunities in the international organizations, and most of them join them. I also investigated the working conditions of the staff at the national non-governmental organizations. And then I asked for the current status of working conditions in the national organizations. 29% of them say there is completely lack of teamwork in their organizations, while 29% say there are lack of recreational activities in their organizations. Then 17 say there are conflicts that exist in those organizations. Asking whether the working conditions at the national non-governmental organizations contributed to staff turnover, 65% said they never contributed to staff turnover. They are resilient, they are ready to work. Other factors that contributed. Conclusions and the future steps. Of course, the objective of the study was to find out whether low salaries, leadership styles, career advancement, and working conditions contributed to high staff turnover. It is evident from both the primary data from the questionnaires and secondary data gathered from literature review that there are answers to the research questions. The findings of the research questions conclude that low salaries contributed to staff turnover national non-governmental organizations. It means national non-governmental organizations be able to improve on their salary scales. And the partners, the international organizations, be able to address this issue of low staff salaries. They should stop this practice of limiting the salary scales of national non-governmental organizations. And then leadership style also contributed to staff turnover in national non-governmental organizations. So the recommendation is there should be capacity building to address this leadership issue. And of course, due to the many decades of war, most of the people are traumatized. And of course, with the trauma, one can easily become military. It requires some kind of trauma counseling to the leaders, then leadership training. And then, of course, career advancement has also contributed. The third, according to the findings, and on the recommendation is that there should be opportunities for career advancement at the national non-governmental organizations. So some kind of capacity building for them so that they are able to come up with career advancement opportunities. And of course, working conditions contributed by staff turnover. These national organizations should be able to improve on their working conditions of the staff so that they don't decline. Future research should be able to investigate more variables that could affect turnover, tension among the staff. Because this particular study, I only focused on 4 variables, which are staff, salaries, leadership styles, advancement opportunities, and working conditions. So future research should investigate more variables, and if possible, try to measure. There are very many references, some of them. Thank you.
I think we have one question from Zakaria Kenneth. Dr. Ali, I'll read the question out for you. How was the sample size determined for this study? First question, and the next is, what are the research gaps for further studies?
Thank you very much. I did the study gaps. I started with the study gaps that I only limited the studies to the NGOs that have their headquarters in the capital, Juba. For NGOs that do not have their capital, their headquarters in the capital, Juba, I was not able to reach them. That is a gap. So in the future, the researchers should be able to go outside Juba, because there should be some other contextual kind of factors. That is the first gap. Then secondly, it is limited to only NGOs that have been in operation from 2011 to 2021. Other NGOs that were started after 2011 were not considered.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, Peter, for your wonderful presentations.